Hello, welcome back to the third chapter of this commentary / extended series. Sometimes the flow of an edit feels easy, seamless, like you're just coloring in an image laid out for you. Other times it's like trying to put together something from IKEA without instructions. And this one was the latter. I don't know, maybe it's because the footage felt sporadic or my perfectionist tendencies have begun to take over, or I just wasn't really working from a place of rest. Teeters? I was asked recently how I've been able to pump these videos out at this rate thus far, and the honest answer is unsustainably. Now, something I was asked this week was how I go about interviews. Do I have a set of preset questions that I go in with? And the short answer is yes. I've put in time and energy into thinking about questions I want to specifically ask other hikers or trail angels or just people I come across. Questions that I thought could tie into whatever overarching story I had gone into it thinking I would tell. Going on journeys like this, I don't know, some advice you would give or what you think about it?
Don't trust everybody. That's one thing today. You can't trust everybody. Only trust the close ones to you, and be careful of everybody else. Yeah. Always keep your guard up. And I know it sounds hard, but just have that little edge all the time to get out of trouble. Yeah.
And what would you say to someone who was maybe thinking about going on, I don't know, doing an adventure like this? The thing is, you don't know who you're going to meet, what kinds of answers they might give, and what other questions might pop up while you talk with them. It takes presence, it takes a bit of practice, and a little bit of boldness to ask, especially someone you've just met to be on camera. Something so important is communicating your intent, building a level of rapport, and making them feel comfortable. And sometimes there isn't a lot of time to build that natural trust you create when spending a lot of time with others. So communication right down to the energy you give off is the most important. I think it's very necessary to especially communicate why I want to film them and try to, create a space where they feel comfortable to open up to me. I personally am always curious of other people's stories, and maybe that genuine interest is also felt. And when it comes to filming hikers, sometimes I'll find those who love the camera, then there are others who don't, which is so natural because for a lot of people, it is super uncomfortable. I avoided and disliked the camera or being in front of it throughout all my years of uni, so I get it. But now for me, I guess to create what I am through this series, I've had to appear in front of it a lot. And I feel like now I have a deeper level of understanding through being both in front and behind the camera. So full credit for this goes to Seth, who came up with the idea for this.
If I take one more step, Mr. Frodo, it's the furthest from Northland that I've ever been.
The only thing was, the first take didn't record, so Seth here had to repeat the line 3 times. It's fine. He was already going by Baggins, and yeah, these guys, the brothers, they were great sports. It's probably why we seem a bit hysterical.
Standing in the cornfields, just feeling the vibes.
Feeling the vibes. Auckland! I don't know why you need me to. There was something about crossing our first region boundary, a boundary that would take us to the city of my home into tamaki mako. I found more and more that the actual technical and creative editing part takes about 50% of the time I spend on these chapters, and the other 50 is all in the writing. It's one thing to know what I want to say, it's another figuring out how to say it. We were starting the next chapter, a farewell to the stretches of sand I'd longed to bathe on, and hello to the bright lights of denial. That feeling was creeping back. I could be doing other. And then there's finding balance between letting the footage or the writing dictate the narrative I'm presenting. There's a constant flow between both. Okay, so I rewatched Spirited Away with my brother Truman the other weekend, and I just love Joe Hisaishi's scoring in all of the Ghibli films, or Ghibli films. And I noticed sometimes he uses this super dramatic piano key, and I really liked it. So I thought, you know, why not use it to also emphasize a bit of drama? Because yes, to this day, my ankle is still not well. I try not to overdo it, but I love the use of archival footage. To me, it just, you know, enriches the story, gives more context and depth to it. And in this case, for a character being introduced.
Dude, why is Auckland so big?
But if you want a piece of advice, bro, go for
It's
it.
massive.
Well, one of my friends lives in Howard. Is the other.
Thanks, Kenta. Hammond. The thing I was a little upset about was not having a waterproof camera or my Osmo Pocket when we did the paddleboarding section. So I had to make do with my 2017 phone camera and packaged it as VHS footage because, let's be honest, it already looked like it. Their place, and I'm so excited. Nice solo walk this morning. Yeah, it was so bizarre walking through here because this area is essentially my second home, and like you saw, I'd driven from there 3 weeks ago. It literally took a day to get to the top. You know, when I captured these clips, I didn't think they would be so central in the telling of the story, and if I'd even use them. It was also really cool having Kim. I was telling you how this edit felt more difficult, and as I got further in, I was realizing why. As much as I try to disconnect with the person on screen to see them as a character, it's still me, you know? These are still my feelings, my vulnerabilities. It is draining to be pulling them out and writing about them, then sharing them week after week. I'm feeling good though. First rest day, ankles are swollen. And in recognizing that, it's given me some peace in realizing how important rest is. Deadlines and schedules are important for accountability, but so is understanding that in creating art, there needs to be room to breathe and room to rest. And I'm still figuring that out. Yeah, this day was something else. We had this tide crossing we needed to time for, and that meant starting our day at like 11:30 a.m. It was so weird and bizarre. I was in Auckland, but I wasn't. I was walking these suburban streets, looking at people's houses, was trying to meet up with friends for dinner, but got the timing really wrong. And yeah, we ended the day at like 10:30 p.m. in Takapuna. And if not for the early morning ferry, I probably would have gone home to sleep. The day that was definitely evident on my face the next morning. This was one of the best mornings though. I bumped into a couple of friends with their newborn. Then this man who saw me filming myself offered to capture a clip for me.
Where have you walked from?
Cape Reinga.
When...
And yeah, of course, you can't have a bad morning after having a chat with old mate Brucey.
Thanks for coming in and having a chat.
Yeah, no, thanks for the brekkie.
I wonder if other Tāroa people, sorry, raving again. Other people do this because, like, I'm just, you know, I rave anyway. But if I'm with someone like you guys who are doing Tāroa, you know,
honestly, and eating a vegan donut. Okay, so this is where I admit to you all that I skipped 10 kilometers in Auckland City. Honestly, I was just over it. I went and saw my brother in Parnell. He bought me coffee and vegan ice cream. Then I saw my friend who works in Grafton. Then I just kept walking as the crow flies, not on the official trail. You know, I just found myself hating it. I was wearing a backpack in the city. People were looking at me, so I caved. My dad ended up picking me up in South Auckland and took me home to have dinner with the family. Okay, I caved and I came home. But now it's back to the trail in South Auckland. Morena, it is 6 days till Christmas. And I'm in the Auckland Botanical Gardens. Got dropped off by Dad this morning. But I do vow that one day I will go back and complete those missed kilometers. Someday soon. Not immediately, but you know, someday.
We started noticing people walking past our place with sticks and packs on. Thought, where the heck are they going? A dead end road, but found out that it was the trail.
Yeah, so this farmer lets you through his property, but the catch was that you've got to cross the stream across a telephone pole within it. But just, you know, just 1 out of 4 of us fell in. This was a really great score to lend itself to a good old-fashioned passing of time and distance montage. There is so much about New Zealand history that I'm still yet to learn. And I think from walking Te Aroha, I feel this desire and responsibility to know more about it, to appreciate the significance of these areas. Skimmed past in the teachings at school, the largest battles that determined most of the land ownership of Aotearoa took place right where the trail passed through.
Yeah, about 5 years ago, and the highway was being built and there were a lot of workers around but nowhere for them to have lunch. So one day while I was working on the property, trying to improve it to get it into a state for myself, I made some pies and took it down to the local head office of the road workers and left them there for their Friday night drinks. And the next Monday they were here knocking on my door saying, "Hey miss, where do we get some more of those pies?" So that's sort of how it started, and I just started making pies, never made pies before. Went into a couple of the New Zealand pie competitions, of which there was about 800 entries, and I got a 4th in my first year in the pie competition, which was fairly pleasing, and did it again a year later and got 6th in New Zealand. So then it was like, well, I think I could probably open a pie off.
Kathy has had so many hikers through her doors and had so many stories to tell that I couldn't include in the interview. So again, it had to be cut short. And again, I'll be putting the full cuts on Patreon.
An US Army guy that was badly injured in Afghanistan went back to America with basically not being able to walk again. Fell in love with his physio, who said, I'm going to make sure that you walk, and set a goal to do the TA. And they reached me, they got to me. I don't know what happened after that, but they'd walked for, how long is that, a month? They'd walked for a month.
Good morning from a cabin in Huntly. Yeah, Huntly. It is the 22nd of December, I think. It is 5:45, and today is Huntly to Hamilton. We got to Huntly kind of late, before 9. We made it to the countdown last night, and we had about 1.7 more K to walk to the hostel place, or this backpackers place. And a guy pulls over coming out of the mobile and asks if we need a place to stay and if we need a ride and all of that, and he drops us off here. Super lovely. We would have stayed with him had we not already arranged this. This morning, Marcus, old mate, is picking me up. He's going to drop me back off at the trailhead, and we are going to get to Hamilton. Then we're going to get back to Auckland for Christmas. Very excited. Well, Marcus just dropped me off back at the trailhead, and the lovely family gave me a toasted sandwich and a coffee for this morning. It's just so lovely, and a ride. Marcus, you're an angel, and family. Really, really appreciate it. I remember feeling so happy. I'd started the day with these cheese toasties, a hot coffee, and I knew at the end of it, Kento was gonna pick me up in Hamilton so I could go home for Christmas.
And their relationships, and I think a lot of them walk through betrayal or just trying to better themselves to be better people on earth. Some people are running away from things, some people are walking towards things.
I've got spiderwebs all over me. 100% been catching them all this morning. Call that one the old Wingardium Leviosa. No spiders, please. I thought I was hilarious. Oh, spiderwebs everywhere. Oh my goodness me. And what you doing?
Kia ora koutou, ko tamatia hou. We are at Hakarimata Walkway. Actually, we're not quite at Hakarimata Walkway. We're on the way up to the lookout above Huntly, above the Waikato Awa.
I look back at this interview with Tamati and can't help but feel like I rushed through it a little bit. He'd just come off an injury, was back to the trail, and was the epitome of ultralight.
Living kind of within the rhythms of Papatūānuku, away from the synthetic rhythms of the city. There also seems to be a real rongoa to the hikoi itself.
It's been interesting with this universal theme of, healing in nature. It was this whole recurring sentiment, no matter the person's background.
And the wehi to restore my restore my manawa, and just worried that I've lost all the fitness that I had before, and so yeah, hoping that I've still got some fitness, and yeah.
I think you'll be good. You'll be sweet. That was kind of what I wanted to ask you. Thank you so much for sharing. Really appreciate it. I know it can be difficult just opening up like that, but I thought I'd spend that day solo hiking after leaving super early in the morning, but ended up hiking the rest of the day with Tamati right into Hamilton, and we both got these epic vegan meals. Going home for Christmas would be worth it. It is just a day, and there's always next time. I mean, even with this misdirection, of course you knew I'd end up going home for Christmas. There's always next time. Oh, yeah. I was really kind of had a bit of maybe resentment towards Auckland, or continuing on through Auckland. I really needed to get out of it. It was this feeling that the closer I was to home, the harder it would be to walk, and that was the case. As I kept going, it actually got a lot easier, but yeah, I was very, very glad to make it to Hamilton on the 22nd and have these 4 zeros where I'm just gonna eat, spend time with family, relax. All of these Christmas scenes were clips I hadn't planned on using for this series. Just videos I captured because that's what I do. It's what I've done my whole life. So you are getting a sense of more of me as a person, not this hiking persona. Because while the hike is all about the people, so is my real life. And that's the experience that is the most important, as my older sister lovingly reminded me when I told her I might not come home for Christmas.
3 different colours, there's this colour, that colour.
Editing this, yeah, it's been challenging. And that's hard to convey even in this, voiceover here, but it's been difficult, I guess, with Christmas coming up again. Have you opened it, or? Because as much as this is me editing the series together, it's also become a form of healing, processing, and remembering that, these are the moments that we'll always come back to. Anyway, I'm not really talking about editing here anymore, am I? But
what I was saying is Elena's...
Now, this almost couldn't have been better scripted, so full credit goes to my narration substitute, the older sister. Because yeah, sometimes I take for granted that we've got it pretty good here. And that, yeah, New Zealand tourism, they should definitely be paying me for this.
That is New Zealand.
So sometimes I do feel a little too gushy about the way I present this hike. Other times I realize that this is how I am, this is me. I romanticize, I like to create connections. I like to tell stories in a way where you can walk away with something, and while sometimes I feel a little dramatic, I'm leaning more into having this artistic license. And that's me, using my voice in the way I know how, the way that best suits me. And that's all we can do when we are telling our story. Alright, so quickly onto our sponsor. In 2018, the year I got my learner's motorbike license, bought a motorbike, I also signed up to Squarespace. I initially got it to have a digital portfolio, a place I could show things I'd created, skills I had, and essentially as a landing page where I could curate and display my work. Obviously, after over 3 years of using it, I'd recommend them, which is cool because if you use the code Elina Osborne, you'll be able to get 10% off a domain name or website to build your own little corner of the internet. Okay, well, thank you again for being here. It's the messages and comments I read in these videos that keep me motivated, especially in more difficult edits like this one was. So yeah, happy end of November. It's gonna be December. Can you believe it? But the sun is shining, the days are longer. Summer is upon us in the southern hemisphere. I'm about to get very tan. All right, well, I'll let you go now. So take care, and I will see you in chapter 4.